Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have some super simple and super cute card ideas to share with you that feature one of the Saleabration stamp sets. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have 4 different card ideas I want to share with you that feature the super cute little stamp set called Awesome Otters. Now, this particular stamp set is one of the many items that you can choose for free with a qualifying purchase during Saleabration. Now, besides the use of the adorable little stamp set, I'm going to show you how to use the Picture This dies. So I will be using this particular die up here with the rectangular shapes to create some of the cards for today, but this die set is just super easy to use and it just creates some adorable cards. Okay, let's get started. This first card idea that I have to share with you is just a very quick and simple card design. I've actually used this design before, so it might look a little familiar, and it's probably one of my favorites for creating some quick cards. So let me show you how to make this. So you're going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock for the base of your card. So this is just your standard card size, and I'm using this card size throughout this video. So it's 5.5 by 8.5, and then you score it in the middle at 4 1/4 to create the base of your card. Next, you're going to cut a 2 by 5.5 inch piece of designer paper, and you're just going to adhere it to the left side of the card front. Then I'm just using some Pool Party ink, so this is the same color as the card base. And when you use the same color ink as your card base, you just get a more subtle look in the background. So I'm just going to stamp some of these little party hats on the side here. And we'll just kind of go down the card and just kind of angle it different directions as you go down the card. Okay, we'll set this aside and let's create the focal point. So I'm just using one of the Stitched So Sweetly dies to create my focal point. You can use any die cut shape for this. So I'm just going to ink up one of the images with some black Memento ink. And I'm using this particular ink because we're going to be doing some coloring with the stamping blends. And so the Memento ink works really well for that. So I'm going to start out by just kind of highlighting different sections of my little otter here. I'm just going to add some bronze. So that's what I'm using. So I'm just kind of highlighting, like, you know, the outer sections of this little otter. And then I'm just taking my light crumb cake Stampin' Blend, and I'm just going to fill the rest of this in. But as I do this, I'm just going to kind of pull on that bronze a little bit just to kind of blend this a little better so those lines don't stick out. It just kind of gives it like this highlighted look. And then you can just go back over it as many times as you need to just to kind of blend it a little bit more. And then I'm just using ivory to just kind of color in the center here. So the ivory and the bronze Stampin' Blend actually come together, so in the same pack. And then we'll just add a little Calypso coral to the nose. So you can really use any coloring tools that you have on hand to do your coloring. I just prefer the Stampin' Blends. Okay, so I just added a couple dimensionals to the back of this, and I'm just going to pop this up right in that open space so you can see how the little party hats kind of go around and showcase my little focal point here. And then I just stamped a little birthday greeting on a scrap piece of Pool Party cardstock. And I'm just popping up this one side. I have a little dimensional under this section, and then the section that lays on top of the rectangular shape is just glued down. And then you can go ahead and embellish the card with whatever kind of embellishments you want. I'm using some of the stars So these little stars are from the Your Biggest Fan suite. So they're just really cool and they worked well with this particular card. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just add this cute little party hat. So this is the same stamp that I used to stamp this outline here. I just stamped it on a scrap piece of white cardstock using the black ink, and then I just colored it in with some of the stamping blends. So that's what the first card looks like. And then you can add twine or ribbon. I added some ribbon to mine. So you can add anything that you have on hand to the card to embellish it. Okay, the second card design is just as simple. It's actually very similar to the one that I just showed you. I just stepped it up a little bit by adding some additional embellishments and designer papers. So let me show you how to make this one. So again, you're going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock for the base of your card. And then cut a 2 by 5.5 inch piece of designer paper and adhere it to the left side of the card front, just like we did with the last card. Then you're going to cut a 1.5 by 5 inch piece of just a different pattern. This happens to be the back side of this particular pattern. So once you cut this piece, then just snip the end into a little banner. And then you just go ahead and adhere it to the card front. And then I'm just using one of the Heart and Home doilies. So it's actually blue on this side. I have a little bit of glue on there, but it's white on this side. So it makes just a great little embellishment. We'll again add some of these little party hats. Now I probably should have done this before I adhered the doily down, but that's okay. The doily's not completely adhered down, so we're good. And then I just created these little pieces actually using the Give It a Whirl dies. I'll be showcasing those dies in a different video, but I cut these little pieces from that particular die set. So I'm gonna adhere these right to the center here. So we'll add this little guy. So I already did all the coloring for this otter. It was the same as what I showed you on the last card. So then we'll add one of these cute little party hats. So I just cut this out with my scissors just to add that on there. And then I just stamped a greeting on a 1/2 inch wide piece of Pool Party cardstock using the Pool Party ink. So we'll add that. And then I again embellished it with a couple little stars. Super cute and really simple. And then again, you can leave it like this, or you can add a little bit of ribbon or twine on the side tied into a little bow. Okay, so actually I'm going to talk about the last two card ideas together. So both of these cards were created with the Picture This die, that die that I showed you, this die that looks like this. So I'm going to show you how to create two cards using this one particular die. Okay, so the first thing I did is I cut a 4 by 5.25 inch piece of white cardstock, and then I cut a 4 by 5.25 inch piece of designer paper. So I actually cut both of these out at the same time. So I laid them on top of each other, the designer paper and the white cardstock. I laid those two on top of each other, and then I laid this die right in the center of both pieces, and then I ran it through my embossing machine. And then you'll notice that it has like this stitching on it. So when I took the pieces out of the embossing machine, this is what I was left with. So I'm left with all these little pieces here, these colored pieces. And then I also have the exact same pieces in white because I, cut one from white and one from the designer paper. So what I did to make each of the cards is I took these white ones and I put it with the designer paper. And then I took the designer paper ones and I put it with the white cardstock. And so this card was created with the white paper and the little insert pieces from the designer paper. So that's what I'm going to use to create this card. And then this card was created, let's scoot these over here, And then this card was created with the designer paper and the little white pieces. So the little white pieces we'll do some stamping on. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create both of these cards. Okay, so let's start with card number 3. So for this card, you're again going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock for the base of the card. And then we're going to take this die cut piece of designer paper and we're just going to adhere it to the card front. Now you could adhere this to a white piece of cardstock and just stamp in each of these little rectangular shapes. But for my card, I decided that I was going to do the stamping on these white pieces because remember I cut out a white piece of cardstock and I cut out this designer series paper using that die. So I just did some stamping on these pieces of cardstock and I'm going to adhere these in the sections that they belong. We're just going to pop them up with some dimensionals, but I wanted to show you how to create this little guy. So before we adhere them, I already colored them in with the bronze and the crumb cake and the ivory, but I wanted to show you how I did the water. So I took the dark Pool Party Stampin' Blend and I basically just colored in all these little drops of water here. And then I just took the Stampin' Blend and just outlined kind of the waves with this marker. So you can certainly color it in if you wanted to. It would look good that way as well. But I just wanted to highlight those little waves that I stamped using, you know, the black Memento ink. Okay, so that's how I created that. So let's go ahead and add some dimensionals to all of these. All right, so I just added some dimensionals to the back of each of these white pieces. So you'll want to do that after you finish your coloring, of course, your stamping and coloring. And then you just adhere them right in these spaces because they're the exact same size. Even though these are white cardstock pieces, obviously they're the exact same size as this designer paper. So they're going to fit perfectly in there. So let's go ahead and add some of these Resin Stars. And then I again cut out 2 little party hats. I stamped this on a scrap piece of white cardstock. And then I cut those out by hand, just using my scissors. So we'll add this little party hat right there. And then we'll add the other one up here. Isn't that just super cute? And it's super simple. I like that I can mix and match my designer paper with some white cardstock to create 2 different cards. So I'll show you the 4th card in just a minute. But you can add some ribbon or twine or whatever you want to decorate the card, or you can just leave it as is. It's adorable either way. Okay, and this last card features that white cardstock where I cut out that little die shape, and it features the designer paper on the inside just to kind of decorate it and create a fun background. So let me show you how to make this. So again, we're going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock for the base of our card. And then you're just going to use the white cardstock that we used that picture this die on. And you're just going to adhere that to the card front. So I stamped a little greeting up here. I did it twice, up here and down here, using some Pool Party ink. And then we're going to take these leftover pieces from creating that other card, and we're going to add these right in all of these spots. So this will just give us a really nice background for our card. And it's a great way to use up all your scrap pieces. So I like to use up all my scraps right away. I don't like to store them. So, and we'll just adhere this one. And then you have a really cool background. And then you can go ahead and tie a piece of ribbon around. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I just tied the ribbon completely around the card front. And then you can, I like to put a little glue dot like underneath the little knot where my bow is. So you want to make sure that you have this wherever you want it on the card. But put a little glue dot under there and that'll just kind of hold it down and make the bow lay a little bit flatter. And now I created the same kind of focal point that I created for one of the other cards using one of the dies from that Give It a Whirl set. So I'm just going to add this right kind of tucked under my bow, but right on this center piece here. And of course I have another little party hat that we can add right to our card. And then you can go ahead and embellish. Super cute and so simple. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 4 different card ideas that you can use to create just some absolutely adorable cards using the Awesome Otters stamp set. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.